Welcome to Demolition Success Secrets, the podcast that's changing the game for demolition businesses everywhere. Ever wondered how a wrecking ball wielding industry can leverage digital marketing to dominate their market? Well, we've got the blueprints, strategies, expert guests, and more to show you how. Stay tuned, because we're about to blast through the barriers of your business.
Cool. We have a treat for you guys today. We have Michael out of Georgia. And welcome to the podcast, man. How's it going?
Oh, not too bad. Appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah.
You know, this what you're doing. You know, I checked out a couple of these episodes. I thought you're doing a good job here. So this is pretty interesting hearing some of these guys' stories and everything. So feel honored being on here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got in the biz.
So I'm pushing 40. I've been doing demos probably since I was about 17, 18. Started out small with landscaping company. We were doing small work, small hardscape demos, concrete demos, stuff like that. Mostly pathways, driveways, gardening, and just kind of grew from there. Just in the construction business. Got hooked up with a guy David, back in 2005, and he said, we dig swimming pools. We also tear them out. And I said, okay, I'll try it out, And I found out the pool excavation is tough. The demos are a lot of fun. Swing a wrecking ball, swing, so that was how I kind of got into it. But, doing all sorts of demos, houses, pools, again, driveways, and, any structure. We had a few wrecking balls and just go to town. So, I've been doing this, since, like I said, I'll be 40 in March. So I've been pushing, 16, 17 years now.
That's amazing. Well, and we've known each other for a while. We kind of just rekindled and re-caught up recently, and it was like no time even went by. What do you think the difference is from when you got into demo a long time ago compared to how it is these days? A lot of differences?
Yes and no. I think, we saw the 2020 era, because, we did a little business in 19, and then 2020, I think you saw really two things happen. The outdoor market, like you had low interest rates and nobody taking vacations and nobody going anywhere, right? So everybody's refinancing and doing, rates were low, construction was back, people were wanting to change stuff. And to change stuff, you got to do demo, right? Whether it be backyards, whether it be, old houses tear down, instead of buying land, just rebuilding the same spot, and now I think a lot of that has got, the abundance of work is not as abundant as it was 2 years ago, and I think it's kind of leveled back off to, in the smaller demo market now. Commercial, we never were set up to do large commercial, and so I don't know that market as well. But it seems like it's, the commercial market's still happening. Every time I drive into the city, it seems like there's a new big building going somewhere. And so, something was there before it, I guarantee you.
Right. Yeah. Be it some trees, be it some soil or something. And that's funny. We don't do land clearing, but I have a really close buddy who does the marketing for land clearing. Mm-hmm. And like you're saying, it is interesting when you see something go up. Something was, I don't care if it was a boulder or it was a mound of just dirt or trees, or like someone demolished whatever was there, cleared it.
Yeah.
And then someone poured foundation, and someone, it's amazing. There were electricians and plumbers and so many trades. What do you think the biggest difficulty in demolition has been over the last few years?
Me personally, I think the biggest difficulties that I saw was waste disposal, right? So as landfills close, as recyclers will open up, but there's not recyclers all around, a market like Atlanta, East Coast. Atlanta's a very spread out city. And the more it grows, they're not building new, everything's a transfer station. So that's more expensive to get rid of the waste, whether it be hazardous material, whether it just be C&D debris. There's a couple of big recyclers that that is as much as you can take to those, because those are usually more centrally located around the in our case Atlanta and the perimeter and stuff. But again, recyclers won't take anything hazardous, pretty much. Anything that's got to be handled cautiously, whether it be asbestos, demos, or anything from old septic tanks to the old gas tank, structures. You can't take stuff there, and so it's getting harder and harder. And as the landfills that were real close to the perimeter, are filling up and they're closing, so everything gets farther and farther away. So I feel like getting rid of and being more efficient of what you can recycle on site, whether it be bringing in tub grinders, and grinding all your concrete into the 57 stone or base, and using it on the site during construction or whatever. That way you're not hauling it off. I mean, that's where I think everybody has to be, I guess that would be the biggest thing that I've seen is you've got to be a lot more efficient with how you're getting rid of your demo debris, and then what are you doing with it,
Okay. What would you say separates a successful demo company compared to a struggling demo company, or maybe a newer company that's trying to figure things out? Like, where is that line in the sand? It could be a revenue amount. It could be, traits of how they operate, a million different things, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'll tell you, a bad demo company won't be bad long, because a bad demo company is going to have problems, whether it be, accidents from demo, or they're not going to be able to keep up. So monetarily, it's expensive to run equipment. It's expensive to anything with diesel it's like a boat, let's bring out another thousand. So, demo companies, if you don't have experience, somebody experienced, that knows what they're doing, people get hurt real fast. I think that's the biggest thing that I see that separates, successful demo companies is how do you keep accidents down? How can you demo something, return it, do a complete job, make the customer happy, and then drive that repeat business when you have, no contractor, like general contractor, wants to have subs, they're a liability. They also don't want one, and I've seen this with people that, I quote you to come pull a swimming pool out, right? And I'm going to come and I'm going to pull that out, but I might only cut the top 4 feet off, and I'm going to leave that shell down there, but I'm not going to break it up. So, it's going to settle. It's going to trap water. Like, knowing how to do your job and how to do it right without causing problems down the road, I think that's another major factor for demo companies, because you're not going to get repeat business like that. I guarantee you.
Right. Okay. So it's really kind of, you have to intentionally think about the long haul.
Yeah.
If you want to be in the game for the long haul.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to be in the game for a long haul, I mean, you got to approach things very cautiously. I'd say a lot of times, everybody, demo is one of those things where everybody's got in their head where they just take a wrecking ball and just start smashing through the side of buildings, or getting your dozer and just push the house over. But, the reality is you can hurt somebody, you can hurt, the houses, especially like a lot of the demos you see downtown metropolitan. I mean, you're dropping 2-3 story houses 10, 20 feet off the neighbor's house, and the last thing you want to do is drop a house on somebody else's house. And right. I've seen some pretty sketchy stuff in my day, watching people do that. I watched a guy one time was working on a house, and he didn't shore up an old brick chimney, and that chimney broke right. He pulled the house in, and the house was coming down in the middle, but the chimney broke loose in the middle and fell through the neighbor's house, through the wall. And luckily nobody was hurt there. But
yeah.
I mean, what if somebody? I mean, that's it's a lot of weight there. I mean, it did. It just went right through the side of the house, and so
crazy.
Luckily, it wasn't my company, I was there. I was actually working on a job site right next to it, and I don't know what happened. I didn't never, there was no name of the company on any of the trucks, so they were,
Oh.
so I don't
Good
know
for them.
I don't know who it was, and that's and let me tell you, that's something I'll say to you too, is being in the construction industry and being in the demolition area. If you got people approaching you that don't have their name, at least on the side of their truck or business card, if they're just telling you, hey, I'm Jose with a track home, and I'll tear that house down, no problem. Be leery, because this isn't, demo is not a billboard. I mean, you're the marketing guy. You know what I mean? So it's besides doing a job that people look at and putting your name, on your stuff, it's real hard to advertise like that, except for word of mouth, and that's reputation is everything. So.
Yeah, and for some of these people, it's literally just them, maybe a friend, maybe a family member. So they tear a few houses down a month. They're loaded. They're feeling great. They may not own the equipment, so they lease it, and it just the units of economics work. But like you're saying, you don't want to be the guy who's getting your neighbor's house torn in by getting your house torn in.
Yeah,
that's not good. And you don't want to be the guy or the company who's doing that. Because like you said, it's not going to last long. Like, what insurance company is going to take you for doing that one too many times? No one.
Exactly.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. What about, I know you got some crazy stories. That, of course, is I guess our first story. So, I know that we could probably go for so long, but do you have maybe 3 that happen to come to mind tonight in the moment that maybe our audience will get a kick out of, or just be absolutely shocked by?
So one of my best demos to this day that I can remember that I just thought was so cool was I was doing a big commercial, like, rec department swimming pool that had probably been around there since the 40s or 50s. It was down in the Hateville area in Atlanta, if anybody knows where that's at. And I it was just me, a track hoe, and 2 trucks, two dump trucks. And in one day, and this was about a 6,000 square foot commercial pool. It was, I don't think it was a true Olympic. It was a little bit bigger than Junior Olympic, but I don't think it was true Olympic, but it was a big pool. And I went to town with this wrecking ball, and I was able to just beat this concrete up. So, and just looking at it the way I did it, I was able to pull the cage out like a nice piece of fish. And I mean,
cool.
I beat this thing for about 4 hours, just went around beating with the hammer and kind of pulling in a little bit. And I mean, the cage of this pool, I got that concrete so fine, which was nice because it was a fill-in. So all the fines, anything smaller than basically a softball, basketball, you can pretty much bury and get good decent compaction on your backfill with. And so I was able to pull that cage out, and it was really cool watching that. That was probably one of my favorite demos through there.
You're like a surgeon almost, just
bit
by bit by bit.
Yeah,
that is cool.
Yeah, and then probably one of my favorite demo stories was like one of the first houses I ever did, and it was over in one of the older neighborhoods in Atlanta. And I remember tearing the front and came in, tore the front of the house off, the back, and it almost broke in half perfectly. And then I look up, and the second story had a toilet, and the toilet had fallen, but the bath roll was still on the back wall. Like, it was a tile toilet paper roll, and it was just kind of dangling there. And I thought it'd be funny just to leave it there. So I pretty much just peeled the house around this back section, 2-story tall. So all that was left was just the back wall, a little bit of floor, and this tile and the toilet paper still on the reel, just kind of flapping around. That was
should have gone up there and used the toilet.
Yeah, I wish I had video of the toilet just kind of sliding out when I pulled the front half of the hallway off. It just kind of slid down. And then probably the third scariest moment that was really cool was another one of those where I was doing a 3-story like colonial townhouse that
Okay.
over in the Morningside area, and it was up a hill that had a crawl space basement, but it was backfilled in the front yard, so we had to come up to basically the first floor and then the second floor, but there was a basement below it, and I couldn't get high enough. We were running a Link Belt 145, I think, the LX2, the newer one, and I was trying to reach up, and I couldn't get all the way to the roof line. And so, and again, both sides of this lot, there was houses, 20, 30 feet on both sides of me, but I was having to work at such a weird angle, and it was so tall, and I couldn't get the bucket up that it was really, I mean, that was a slow one. That one I pretty much just took it piece by piece and peeled off a little bit of the, exterior, and then went in, started just pulling down walls one at a time, just pulling out sheetrock and exposing with the track hoe. I just kind of dug into the middle of it, and then would bring down, I'd find a support beam, I'd grab that, and at that time we didn't have a hydraulic thumb on it. We just had a fixed thumb, which anybody that's ever run a fixed thumb knows, it's a lot. You have to get the angles correct when you're running a machine with a fixed thumb, because you just don't have that, everything's curl, that's your only motion is curling with the bucket. And that one, I would say that one was probably one of the toughest demos I've ever done, just because I was worried about, there was no way to control. I was so much higher. I was worried about collapsing in on me in the machine.
Ooh.
I'm looking, right. I mean, even looking through the window, I'm looking basically up under it. And I had to bring this thing down, and I didn't have any problems. I mean, but it was definitely a slow. It wasn't a fun day of demo. It was definitely a pucker day of demo. That would have been that one I remember was really tough. That and then of course, if you talk to David, the one that kills him is I lost a wrecking ball one time on a job.
What?
Yes.
You do that? That's impressive.
So everybody says that. So we were doing a pool demo, and the guy just wanted to grade the yard out. He didn't want to pay to have it hauled off. He's like, just dig a pit. And I was like, well, technically we can do that because it's not any kind of wood materials. You can bury concrete. And so we, and he's just like, I got this pasture, just dig. And so I dug this huge hole, but it was a couple of flips over, and it was real tight access job. We only had the track hoe out there. And at some point, once I got done, I don't know what happened to it. And we went back, we rented a company that came in and used the GPR, the ground penetrating radar. We tried to use metal detectors. I mean, I dug the whole entire, after doing a complete job, I mean, compacting and bringing in dirt and leveling this yard off. I mean, I went back to where all the edges of the pool was. I dug it back all the way up and went through the concrete holes, the pits, and dug all those up with a metal detector and all this. And we don't know what happened to it. I mean, 3,000-pound wrecking ball,
Oh my God.
and it did. It just,
that's crazy.
It just disappeared. I mean, I'm sure it either went out, because we did end up hauling a couple loads. So either somehow it went out on one of those trucks, is all I can figure, or it's just, we never found it. I mean, we never found, but we spent some money looking for it, because wrecking balls, like, they're hard to find sometimes. I don't know what for a while they were running about, I think, $4 a pound, $3-4 a pound around here, but to find a good one is hard. So losing one was tough. That one was really cool.
They don't make them new or something. You got to get them on the used market.
Well, the majority of them are used. Yeah, like I've seen. We were looking for a couple, especially after that one. David's pretty good at sourcing that kind of stuff. But yeah, I have never seen a new demo ball. They've all been used. Whether it be like a true ball, or a lot of them will be spears, or like X spears, kind of shaped. And they're really made to drop more than they are to swing, which I could talk to you an hour about everything I've learned about running a demo ball, and all the things. And David and I have gone through so many different techniques, because swinging a wrecking ball, with the track hoe is not a natural movement for the track hoe, except for swinging it back at you, but trying to swing it side, it puts a lot of. So we went, when we first got one and started using it, we were just doing the old chain to the hook on the bucket, and I mean it ripped up. We probably ripped up 2 or 3 bucks for this. Like, this isn't going to work. We got to figure something out. And so what we came up with was, we had a bunch of dump trucks and that low boy and everything. So we always had spare tires. We started chaining the ball to a tire, and double, so you didn't have as much slack in the chain, because I mean those things will stretch chains, they'll stretch cables, and we found that the best way. And plus you're breaking your shanks trying to grab it all the time. So the best way we came up to, and it seemed to be, it's worked out really good, is we'll chain it to a tire, and then you just grab the tire with the bucket with the teeth, and your thumb, and you grab it like that, and you could swing it and beat it, and it doesn't. The tire gives a little bit of shock there, gives a little bit of feel, so there's not so much strain on all your bushings and all your pins and all, because I mean you can wear some pins out real fast especially if you don't have someone that's got experience. I mean, swinging a demo ball is really dangerous, because I mean I think our smallest one, the picture I showed you, that one I think was about 1,800 pounds. That was a pretty small one, but we've had a 3,000 pound one. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's I gotta look at it. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then we had the one I lost was the 3,000 pound one. And then I think we had another one that was like another about 2,500 pound. That was the X ball that we had, But that's a lot of weight, and you got to be real careful. You got to be real careful using one of those. Like I said, demo work is probably some of the more dangerous work that we had that I ever did. If you get hurt real fast. So.
Is it something that like OSHA comes on a lot? Is that, I know obviously
I'm sure the commercial jobs, yeah. Again, we did more residential stuff. Like I said, the swimming pools, the concrete structures, the houses, that was more our market. But I'm sure you watch them drive by, when they're demolition of a stadium or an old apartment complex or something like that. I mean, they usually have a big, fenced off and barriers and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, as far as OSHA goes, I'm knock on wood, I haven't had a lot of interaction with them in the residential stuff.
Do they not come for like residential stuff, or they're so busy with commercial they have no time?
Yeah, there's no time to manage that unless you have probably some violations. Unless you're a known violating company, they're not going to do spot check. They're not going to do spot checks on you, or somebody or nosy neighbor or something. I've had neighbors call the county on me plenty of times because they don't like us working next to them. But, usually we've always got our permits and all of our safety, all our PPE and everything, so we don't have any problems with that. But, as far as OSHA goes, I've been, not the residential stuff, not too much.
That's interesting. Okay. But I guess they could come.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I probably had more visits from from our insurance, quality control people than I have from OSHA over the years.
Really?
Yeah. I forget what they have a name for those guys. I forget what it's called now, but yeah.
Like an adjuster or something?
No, they're not adjusters. They're somebody who comes and watches you for a day to make sure that y'all are, because they're ensuring us that we're at, working in a safe manner, so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How often do they show up? A few times a year? Like 2-3 times?
Yeah, I would say so.
Huh.
I'd say so.
It's like I work for them. I don't know how I randomly.
I mean, it just it all. I guess it depends on the insurance company too.
Sure. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, maybe the higher your premium, the more they're off your back. The cheaper the premium, they're like, we got to watch these guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't want to be that. I mean, I was working for a company one time that had a driver that was hauling a low boy and was drinking. We didn't know he was drinking. I wasn't there, but he flipped the track hoe off the trailer into a power pole in Sandy Springs in a prominent neighborhood, and it happened to be in an attorney's house. who got a class action suit against our insurance company for all, and we ended up buying everybody new TVs and stoves, and they maxed out, just about maxed out our policy, coverage wise, and that was dark days there for a little bit for that company. I mean, that company, we were only about, I think, 20 people at the time, and it was,
which is still respectable.
Company. But that's 20 people that were about to be out of work because this one guy was being stupid. And of course he got fired, but, and he got in trouble in jail and everything else. But, as a business owner, that's something, that was the first time when I got into on the partnership side of it, where I was like, I got to really pay attention to what's going on here. Cause I mean, nobody knew that he must've had some drinking problems that cause he didn't, like, he wouldn't show up in the morning drunk, I mean, I don't know why anybody would want to get in a tractor, or behind a dump truck in Atlanta traffic, and think they can drink and drive. That's ridiculous. I mean, I just wouldn't want to deal with it for my own sake. Yeah, I guess something.
It's so
but we had no
stressful.
idea. But that's how quick it goes. I mean, that was a bad situation there. I just thought that would jog my memory on that one. That was a real eye opener for me as far as working people.
The quality control. We had a guy on earlier on the podcast, and he's up in Long Island area, Northeast, and he was telling me how crazy it was for the workman's comp on insurance.
Yeah,
man, Mike, I had no idea. The premiums were insane. Like I said, okay, if a company's doing $10 million a year, I know it varies, but obviously they usually have a certain employee count in demolition. What's the premium? And he was talking hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just for workman's comp, not for liability. I didn't know I knew the insurance was challenging.
I knew that. I know we had it figured in at around 2018 or 19. It almost equated to $10 an employee a day.
Whoa!
Like it was something. It was something like. It was enough to. I remember David and I sit down, and it was enough to where we started thinking, like, we have to figure this into our bids, on a lot of stuff, where our contract work was steady, but it wasn't our regular contract work wasn't super profitable, but it was steady money, right? So it was a guaranteed check coming in. We got a lot of contract work, especially on the pool side, not the demo side, but on the demo side, like, we had to sit down and we're like, wow, we're going to need X amount of people on this job. Like, it's their salary. It's not, it's not just their salary and their per diem or whatever, or their cost to us per day. I mean, it goes farther than that. It's not just our normal overhead, fuel or whatever. It was actually to the point to where it was like, we're going to have to hire 10 more employees. That's X amount. That's going to put us into this bracket, which pretty much equates to, like I said, it was like between $5 and $10 a day per person, Wow. And I meant that day as a 365 calendar, not a work day, not a 5-day work week. I mean, it was like, that's how we broke it down, was 365, so it might've been a little off, but it was that substantial where you had to figure in that much,
And was that just the workman's comp, or that was the insurance at large per head?
I think that was the workman's comp, because we were having to hire a bunch of new employees. Because the stuff we were going off there was going to be more labor intensive, so we were having to actually hire. And we were looking, and the reason why we were looking at that was, what about labor finders, like labor staffing companies? Like, if we hired through them for the projects, if we could get so many people. But then we tried that. Like, I tried that on a military base. For a while I was doing a bunch of military base jobs, demo redigs and stuff like that, and it's tough to get people on the base, right, to get all your credentials. And so it was actually, some of those places easier just for day laborers and general labor, positions. It was just easier to go through a labor finders that already had all the background checks, all the paperwork, and they were signed up with the bases, because there's a lot of day laborers on bases that they use. Like
I didn't
you
know
find
that.
you find one of their preferred labor companies, labor suppliers, and it's simple as, they hire people to clean up the trash, after events and stuff like that. So they have a lot of military bases partner with the local labor companies because they'll go ahead and have so many employees that are E-verified or, background or whatever to get on base. That, it just makes that process a lot smoother.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. So insurance has been a big deal. Obviously, it's challenging because even it was brought to my attention of how many people get dropped. They have a claim. Like with this example, let's talk it through. So we had this lawyer, of course, being a lawyer, he's got to go all the way and go crazy. You messed up my house, all this stuff. Was that something you guys used as a claim, I would assume, or that was like, hey, let's not do a claim, let's do it out of pocket somehow?
No, that was claim. Yeah.
Claim it had to be because it was that bad.
Yeah, well, it was that bad, and then if we would have tried to settle, he was wanting a ton more, so it was obviously we had to turn it over to the insurance because they're going to have the monies to pay the amount of lawyers to fight this guy. We don't we don't have the paperwork. Lawyers will throw the book at you, and you got to have a team of lawyers to fight that, and so they'll settle somewhere. But yeah, no, it maxed out our policy though. Like they told us, like it, and we may have gotten dropped after that. Now that I think about it, and we may have to shop different insurance after that. I know we did change insurances 2 or 3 times over the course of the 15 years, 17 years I was with them. So over there,
it's crazy. Yeah, it's very tricky because I've worked with a number of demolition companies that have told me in instances sometimes we just eat it. Obviously, in that case, you got a lawyer. He's trying to burn the whole company down and stuff. Yeah. But have you seen that before? Like, if you have, could you maybe give me a little behind the scenes?
Yeah. So like I said, we used to run 6 dump trucks and the load boys and stuff. And accidents happen, man. Whether it be just fender bender, whether it be somebody didn't clean the tailgate, there's gravel, dumping off of another funny story. So I remember when I was driving down 75 coming off a job one time, and a rock had gotten in to the gate, right where the gate closes. There's clamps on the back of a dump truck, and a rock had gotten in my tailgate that was just big enough to let the smaller rock come through. And so basically, I get a call from the office, and they're saying, "Hey, I don't know what's going on, but I got like 4 phone calls for cracked windshields. What are you doing? Like, are you riding back from McDonald's?" Like, yeah. He's like, "Well, you need to see what's going on." I was like, "I'm empty. I'm thinking I'm empty, And it was just a little bit of fine gravels that are still in the bed and everything, and a rock. And the latches were latched; they were barely latched, and it was it was a gap like that, but it was enough to let the little M10 rock and everything that was just kind of in the bed still floating as it bounced, and it's bouncing loose and getting out. And of course we fixed some windshields. Windshields are a couple $100 a piece. So they had 4 legitimate people come in and we paid for windshields because like I said, a couple $100, call Safe Flight. That we don't have to make that kind of claim. Whether it be
none of them were lawyers apparently.
Well, yeah, but accidents happen. When you're doing that much traveling, especially around a big city like Atlanta, accident happen. Little fender benders. We would settle with people all the time on, little damages here or there, just because you don't want to make those claims because when you have that giant claim like that lawyer, that's when you need your insurance. So anything we could settle with cash, we'd settle with cash. So
right, that's smart. How about any job related times, in terms of the actual demolition itself, where you guys maybe opted to not do a claim relative to doing a claim?
Yeah, anytime we'd hit, a sewer line or, possibly a gas line or, something like that. Like if it was something that could be easily repaired, we'd get somebody in there just to fix it, then try to make a claim on it. It's gonna be loss of service for somebody. That stuff kind of happens all the time, but if you can kind of appease them and then get the contractor in there to fix it, or you're doing demo in tight areas, and say you're hammering on some rock or you're loading trucks or something breaks, something flies over, hits a neighbor's car, scratch, dent. You got a window, neighbor and business window, something like that. I mean, you can argue with people, but at the same time, it came from you, and there was nothing you were doing necessarily wrong. I mean,
right.
I see that kind of stuff happen all the time. Especially breaking concrete around homes. Doing swimming pool demos or house demos. Flying debris kind of stuff happens all the time.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, it's like the military. Like you're trying to attack the target. You're trying to do an honest job, but there's shrapnel. There's stuff that goes on. Any wild stories of people other than this lawyer who just were lunatics? Like, you did a little tiny nothing on the car, and they're like, "This is a Porsche. I just got it." Like, you need to buy me a new Porsche.
Well, yeah, stuff like that. But I've got one that I just encountered not too long ago. Was we're breaking up a patio at a guy's house, and it's about probably 2,000-3,000 square foot of poured concrete, and they had just obviously didn't do any grading, just poured this backyard, so it's real thick. But they'd also doweled in like number 4 half-inch rebar into the house to float the concrete. So they got a big grid, so we're like pounding on it, man. We got the track hoe back there, and we got a bucket full of concrete. We're beating it down, just trying to break it down and everything. And then all of a sudden, the neighbor, and of course, I saw our house we're working on, all the windows are shaking and everything. Well, the neighbor comes over and it's like, "I lost my internet." I was like, "Well, we haven't cut your internet. We haven't dug anything. We're just doing the demo. Lost my internet." So I was like, "Okay, well, why don't you call AT&T, or whoever your provider was?" I said, "Why don't you call your provider first and find out?" Because I haven't dug anything. We haven't broke any cables. I know that for a fact. And what had happened was the vibration from Beaton. They came out and checked his line, and the fiber cable coming from the street to his house had cracked.
Weird.
Yeah, and I mean, and he was probably a good 20, 30 yards next to us. Good 60 feet. The house was, but it was just from, we didn't know that there was all that steel in the concrete, so we thought we could just do like normal and just go around and kind of break it up, beat it up, pull it out, and everything with the track hoe. And they said the vibration broke the fiber line out of there. Luckily, it was just a house line, because I'm pretty sure if you ask anybody that does demolition that's taken an 811 class, they'll tell you the main fiber, the last thing you want to do, you'd rather cut the gas line before you cut the fiber line. That it's expensive to repair main fiber cables. I mean, that's the one I look out for the most. But yeah, that just recently I dealt with that I've never had one just break on me, and AT&T fixed it. I mean, or whoever. I don't want to say whoever the phone provider was. I don't know exactly, but they fixed it, and they didn't end up charging us. They were like, it happened, but they couldn't prove it was us per se that did it.
I would have been like you. I would have been like, "Man, I can't help you with your internet. Like, you need to pay your bill to Comcast. Like, I can't help with that."
Because we'd had all the utilities marked and everything, and the rule of thumb is with 811 is, you got a pothole and you're responsible for anything in the 4-foot box, 2 foot of either side of that paint. And I know where all the utilities are, and I know I haven't dug anything around the utilities between both houses. So I was like, there's no way we could have cut your phone line. I mean, phone lines unfortunately get cut all the time, but there's no way we could have done that. And that's what they said. And of course, that he's the one telling me I did it, beating the machine, which as hard as we were having to beat on that concrete, because it was poured and steel and everything, and we probably did, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not. This is not me officially taking fault for that, but they repaired it with no problem with us. But of course, the cars, the chipping, debris flying over, had neighbors complain about the dust. Had neighbors from like 2 streets over come by and say that they're gonna get leukemia from the dust, from us working on these sites, and then they're gonna sue me for leukemia. I was like, you don't have it yet, and I don't know, you're not over there, in your asbestos
You already
house,
have it, maybe.
Yeah,
You're
I
just
mean,
trying to get $1.
exactly.
They're gonna adopt some random person and say this is our son,
Yeah,
the same age.
Yeah,
but he's got leukemia because of you.
yeah.
That's wild. Okay,
and then
that's
the neighbors
funny.
filming. Like, I don't know how many times I've had people film me, not for waiting for me to screw something up, not filming for fun, So yeah, I mean, especially down in the Midtown area, the Buckhead Midtown area, everybody down there is looking for, you got to be really on your game with demolition, especially small residential demolition. You got to really be on your game a lot of times. Sometimes it might be easier to do the structures. Like I've worked with on projects where well, you said you used to live down in Powers Ferry. Did you live there back when there was there used to be this real famous apartment complex that was off of Powers Ferry there, kind of near Rays on the River. There's a big commercial building there now.
Okay,
so this is about this has probably been about 2004, 2005. Well, the where the open air MRI was over there? That's still there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the buildings all around that. That building was freestanding, but there was all these big commercial buildings all around it. And Price was doing the demolition there, but somehow I had gotten the contract to do the parking lot demolition. So they were doing all the big building stuff, and I was just out there cutting asphalt and peeling asphalt and curb and gutter and stuff. And watching that, that's when I saw where I wanted to get it to, and we've kind of gone a different direction now, and found our sweet spot. But watching those guys work on that stuff and seeing how they were set up compared to how I had been doing it,
right.
That was what really, I would say, turned me on to demolition. But also watching them tear that stuff down. But they had plenty of room. But we still had people over there that were, all the kayakers were hating on us, and all the Rays on the River people were hating on us, and so you never know. You never know.
Yeah, you can't please them all. You're trying to please your contract, and you're trying to be a decent human. Obviously, we all got bills to pay. I mean, that's the funniest thing in the demolition business. Maybe you could probably say some I can't even say it. Shed some good light on this one, the partnership aspect. So when an estimator, let's say, or a team knows, man, this is a $100,000 deal or a $50,000 deal, what have you, big deals, millions of dollars. They, I assume, look at the owner like, it must be so easy. He chills at the office. He travels all the time and looks at work sites. Like, can you tell me the both sides of it? Because, I mean, of course, it is nice in certain instances, but there's a lot of work to get to that nice point. And when you're at that nice point, there's still a ton of risk and a ton of work.
Yeah. So I did it. I did it from both sides. I did the labor work. I'd be the last guy off the site that had to sweep up the curb and gutters after all the machines are gone, and sweep down the construction entrance, and I would be the last one to leave after dark and just hating life and stuck in traffic, and then on the other side of that, I've been the guy who gets to leave, swing by the site a couple times, talk to the crews, get them set up, get them going, leave to get home. But then as I'm driving, I'm like, where's my next job going? Where am I going to put these guys tomorrow? Where, and laying awake and thinking, all right, well, I've got this contract and this contract. I need to hire this guy, but, can I keep this guy busy after these two contracts? Where's the next job come from? We got rain for 4 days. They didn't work. My guys didn't work 3 or 4 days. Can I afford to have them work around the office? Can we do some maintenance on the machines, some cleaning? Can I keep affording to float them?
Right.
So those are the two struggles, right? Because it was, I was always like, one day I just want to be that guy that gets to leave it. He just shows up in his nice fancy truck and then tears off, and I'm here shoveling this dirt in the street, and I'm not going to get home till 9, 10 o'clock because I got to drive. But, the other side of that is I go home and I'm driving and I'm done. Like, pay me Friday, hand me my check, pay me Friday.
And I expect it and demand it. He's getting stiffed on the bill for the contract you just worked over the last 8 weeks.
Exactly.
He's like, man, I didn't even get money coming in on that.
I don't even have the money yet. Yeah, exactly. But, And so no, that was the thing. And, and keeping your machines going, buying new machinery, figuring out where is it cost effective to keep working on stuff, buy new stuff, is it cost effective to keep good employees that are lazy, when I say good, like knowledgeable and experienced, and work safe, but they're kind of slow and lazy, or do I want the go-getter? But he's the one that's gonna, I'm gonna get a call that he's busted a water line, or he's busted the neighbor's window out of their car, or, and then you can't get mad at them because they're just trying their hardest,
Right.
But at the same time, it doesn't do any good if you're not making any money, right? Because you're paying for his damages and his mistakes, So I've been
the in between. I guess you get a hybrid, someone who's, like you're like, are they fully with us? But also they're not breaking stuff all the time. Is that or do you find there's an ideal?
So the ideal employee would be the one that's young and experienced, somewhere in there, young and experienced, no family. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I would say running a business is tough. It's, you're always sacrificing for yourself. And then in a partnership, if you got one established partner and one young partner, the established partner, it's never 50-50 a feel, I mean, I think, I've dealt with that too, kind of moving up, partnering with people, and then you kind of get to a point where you're like, well, I'm really hustling this work, and I'm out here, I know I'm the junior guy between the two of us, and I'm on site. You're not on site, you're chasing work, but what else are you doing? I'm chasing the work, chasing leads, doing the work, managing the people, but I'm not seeing. I'm working more hours than I was working before when I was just getting a paycheck, because I'm at home.
Right.
I'm doing all the field stuff and managing the people and doing the jobs that we sold, but at the same time, I'm going home and I'm breaking down bids, and I'm doing the paperwork, and I'm doing the timesheets, and I'm doing like all this, and now you're, what are you doing? So
Right.
I've been in all aspects of this, and it's the demo stuff is just that fun, I guess. That you just keep doing it. You just keep doing it, It's like it's a job like anything, but I would say demolition, for me, demolition is probably some of my favorite scope of work that I've done and that we're doing right now. But I've never, like I said, I haven't got a lot of experience in doing the really big commercial stuff,
Right.
So that's its own, it looks, for everything I've seen, there's a plus to that, because that stuff, they're bigger contracts. There's more days on site. The pace is a little bit different. The money, the margins, they're a lot bigger, and so the equipment's a lot bigger. So there's bigger risk, but there's a lot of overhead there too,
Yeah.
I mean, so if you can, for someone who's used to looking at jobs that might price between, in the tens of thousands, compared to somebody who's looking at the hundred thousands, that was always real intimidating for me. And that's why I don't know if that played any part of why I've never really broke out into the commercial stuff myself, and in the past, or I know my comfort level is in that residential, smaller structures, residential stuff. And that's what I know, and maybe that's my comfort zone, and that's why I haven't broke out of it, but the business as a whole, something about tearing stuff up is just, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. So. No, that's awesome. I get that. That makes sense. And also too, like, someone has to be the expert in a certain arena.
Yeah.
So if you could be the expert in medium and smaller stuff, that's fine. Yeah. Because someone has to be an expert in the medium and larger stuff. And like you said, there's pros and cons on both ends. I mean, if you want your company to do $50 million a year, I'm sorry to tell you, you probably got to do the bigger stuff. But also, do you want to go bankrupt in just a few months by making one bad deal or taking on too much?
Exactly.
You know, you can do that pretty easily with the big stuff. You can do it easily with the medium and small stuff too, depending on your bankroll. But yeah, let's do this. We'll do a part 2 because I know we can keep on going. We're gonna wrap up this episode unless you want to just cap off with anything real quick. If you want to share any info. Give any last bits.
This has been fun. This has been fun. Kind of running me down memory lane with some of this stuff. So it's fun to think about.
Well, cool. All right, Michael. We're gonna you and I are gonna hang out on the line, but we are going to end the episode, guys. Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, appreciate it, everybody.
We will see you guys. Yeah, we'll see you on the next episode, Mike.
All right.
That's a wrap for this episode of Demolition Success Secrets. Stay tuned and subscribe for more explosive insights from our upcoming episodes. Until then, continue to blow up your demolition business and make the competition rubble in your path.